Hey Satnam, it's me Shakti Sundari, and today's video is about busting some myths for women around age and menopause. Wow, this is a topic that makes me really get engaged and feel very passionately. And it's come up for me this week because I'm working with the energy of the goddess Dhumavati, who is the crone goddess. So she is the one who embodies age and cronedom and death and disappointment, failure. She is a widow. She's about the things in life that we avoid facing that don't feel good, by way of things that might disgust us, by way of the aging process that we may be afraid of, by way of the disappointments and failures in life and our bodies that we may be afraid of. And she confronts us with that. So that's been in the forefront of my consciousness. And at the same time, I've really been feeling something bubbling up for quite a long time now that I just want to speak to very strongly for all women, well, and men as well, around the whole idea of how we as women perceive ourselves and how we are perceived by others as we transition into peri-menopause and menopause and what comes beyond that, because I feel very strongly that there are a lot of cultural myths and narratives out there at the moment that are very disempowering and even demeaning to women. And if we identify with those dominant cultural narratives, it's going to make us not feel too great about ourselves. Luckily, personally, I don't identify with those at all. And that's obviously why I'm talking about it now, which is to challenge the dominant paradigm of the concept of what a woman is as she goes into menopause, as she goes into her wise years. But really, this isn't just something, I'm not just talking to women at that stage of your life, because I'm talking to all women, because this is relevant to all women in terms of how we perceive ourselves and our value, and whether we identify our value as being the same as our beauty, and whether we identify our value as being the same as youth. Because let's face it, if women didn't make that connection, and if the dominant paradigm didn't make that connection, there wouldn't be such a huge and vast industry that's making billions of dollars and pounds out of selling women products which are designed to make us look younger. So somewhere out there, there's this ridiculous belief that by looking a certain way, we have more value. And it seems, if we look out into the world, that what is being valued and being sold as of value is youth and a particular notion of what beauty is. Now, if we're enslaved to that as women, it's going to set up quite a difficult situation for us as we age. As far as I'm concerned, first of all, that's all just a load of bollocks designed to make money, which is buying into insecurities that are created by a dominant cultural paradigm. Beauty and value have nothing whatsoever to do with products that you put on your face or in your hair and looking a particular way. Your beauty and your value are innate. They are God-given. You're born with value and you're born as beautiful, and that never changes, and it has nothing to do with your age. And actually, it has nothing to do with how you look. I know the mainstream tries to put that message across all the time, that it's about how you look, but actually how you look is irrelevant. You're born and you're going to die. And if you spend your whole life worrying about how you look, you're wasting your time and you're not really connecting with the truth of who you are and what you've come here to be. It's a story that you're being sold to distract you from the reality of living your true self, your I am nature. Okay, so yeah, I've got really strong views on this. um, So I'm going to tell a little bit about myself and my own story just to illustrate this. So I am 53 and I'm in peri-menopause at the moment. So my body is transitioning towards the stage which we call menopause, which means when you haven't had a period for 12 months, by the way, in case you didn't know that. That's what menopause means. A lot of times that word is misused and people say they're in menopause and they're not. So menopause means you've not had a period for 12 months. I'm transitioning. I've not had a period for 3 or 4 months at the moment. I don't know if I'm going to have another one. It doesn't really bother me if I do or if I don't, because I've really enjoyed bleeding, and if I don't bleed anymore, that's fine by me. So yes, I have noticed some changes in my physical body. My hair, the texture of my hair is different. I've got some more wrinkles here on my throat and my neck. The skin on my body is a little bit drier. I need to wear glasses to read things now, which I didn't before. So I've gone long-sighted. What else has changed? Anything else changed? I feel like I've put on a little bit of weight. Okay, so I've noticed changes. And so what? And so what? Does it identify me in terms of who I am or what I'm worth or how beautiful or how luscious I am? No. Not in any way whatsoever. Do I care what anyone thinks about me? No, not in any way whatsoever. Does it matter what somebody thinks of my physical appearance? No, not at all. There are some myths around this stage in a woman's life as well. The myths are that a woman dries up, that she loses interest in sex, that she's not sexy anymore, that somehow she may become dull, that she doesn't have energy anymore. I mean, again, these are all myths. Another myth is that the menopause is a really difficult time. It's another myth, okay? So we're being sold these myths at a time when actually there's a potential to step even more into our power and our intuition and our radiance. When I interviewed Diana Lamb last year, the founder of Womb Wisdom, she said this, when we bleed as women, that's when the veil thins between this world and the other world. So in those days of bleeding, we are as women more deeply connected to the intuitive realms, to the supernatural realms, okay? And then once we go through menopause, that veil is gone forever. So that intuitive wisdom, that knowing that we connect to when we're bleeding on a monthly basis, once we've gone through menopause, that gate's open the whole time. And if we have already sort of cultivated the capacity to tune in to what's going on energetically and physically, then once we're in menopause, that capacity is heightened. And that is why in traditional cultures and in matriarchal societies and goddess honoring cultures, the women in their wise years are deeply, deeply revered. You know, the whole idea of the witch was a negative symbol that was overlaid onto women who were profoundly connected to their intuitive wisdom, their healing gifts, their alchemical powers to create. A woman in that knowing of her own truth and power is extremely powerful, and the church and the religion was afraid of her. So women, this isn't something to fear. This is something to embrace and open to and be curious about. You know, you have this wonderful opportunity to become more of who you really are and to bless the world and all those around you with these gifts. So once again, just speaking, I just want to put my glasses on to see what you've just said there. Yes, yeah, the change is awesome. So, you know, the thing about sex, I love sex. My sex drive has changed, but I think that the main change is actually that I am becoming more discerning in terms of who I would want to exchange my energy with. For sure, my capacity for sexual pleasure and love making is not in any way diminished. In fact, I've always had trouble finding men who can keep up with my sexual appetite. I love making love for hours and hours and hours. It's very rare that I've met a man who can keep up with that, and that's why usually I've had to have younger lovers. So sexuality, it doesn't have to stop when you go into this life stage. There's no reason at all for you to feel less than sexually. My sexual vitality is just as strong, just becoming more discerning, I hope. So smarts, I have so much life wisdom and experience, like so much. Often I laugh to myself as I sit in circles, and you know, some people are very keen to show what they know. I've gone beyond needing to show what I know, because I know and I know and I trust my own knowing, and that's good enough for me. The knowing that I have within is the deepest wisdom, and my life experience is profound. I don't need to show that off or prove it. Of course, I use it in my work a lot, but there's a lot of arrogance out there. There's a lot of needing to prove something, and at this stage in my life, I don't have that need anymore. I can just allow things to be, but sit very quietly and confidently in the knowing of the truth within. Yeah. Yeah. Energy. There's this myth that our energy dies off, like, doesn't have to be. Of course, it does depend on your lifestyle. I teach yoga, I teach dance, I do exercise every day, I meditate every day. So I am keeping myself healthy and vital through those activities. If I didn't, and I also eat healthily, of course, that does make a difference. But there's no reason whatsoever for your energy to drop off. I did go through a phase in peri-menopause where my energy dipped and I was very tired for a few years at certain phases of my cycle, and the way I dealt with that was I just would rest. I would just lay down and do nothing. If my body told me that's what I had to do, I would do it. It's not culturally acceptable, I know that, but I don't give a fuck about what's culturally acceptable. Women who are going through perimenopause should be honored and understood and listened to. It's a really potent time, and issues come up in that time to be acknowledged and to be faced. And it's a real shame that that's not understood by women and also by men. It's a real shame that there is so much stigma attached to the word menopause and to the word change, and that there's something embarrassing about talking about how old you are. Like, what the fuck does it matter how old you are? What the fuck does it matter? Does it really matter if you're 25 or 65 or 33 or 100? What on earth does it matter? Really, what does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. Like, why is there this shame about saying how old you are? I don't understand it. Really, I don't. So this is a time of being sexy, of being smart, of being discerning, of being vital, of being fit and flexible. And, you know, the myths out there are just there to diminish women who have an opportunity to really step into their fullness, to their blossoming, to their fullest potential. So I just have questions for you. Like, you know, my mum, who was very much ingrained, and she's still alive, in the cultural myths and the dominant paradigms, she was still taking hormone replacement therapy until a few years ago. She is now 87. She took it from the moment that she went into menopause to like 85, hormone replacement therapy. Why? Fear of aging. She dyed her hair until a few years ago. Why? Fear of looking her age. Like, why be afraid of looking how you are? What is that fear of? Why are you afraid of looking how you are? Why? What is the need to look any different than you are? Seriously, I don't get it. What is the reason for that? What do you care? What does that tell you that you care about? What does that tell you that you think about yourself? We are always getting older. Like, even when you're one, you're getting older. So, and we're all going to die. Like, yeah, we're all going to die. Like, if you haven't faced that fact, now's a good time to have a look at that fact. And just, it's a wonderful way to question yourself and the reasons for why you're doing whatever you're doing with your life. It's a great wake-up call to contemplate your own death and ask yourself, if I only had a day to live or a week to live or a year to live, what would I do with my life? It's a really brilliant contemplation and meditation. So why does it matter what anyone else thinks of you? Seriously, what the fuck does it matter? So your wise years are a time of wisdom, they're a time of confidence, they're a time of not giving a fuck, they're a time of opening and expanding awareness and intuition, they're a time of lusciousness, they're a time of power, a time of intuition, a time of beauty, a time to be able to give back potentially if your children are older and have left home. My kids are still at home, so I'm not at that stage yet, but like, come on. I remember sitting in a circle that I was holding last year at the Awaken the Goddess Festival. It was a women's circle. It was beautiful and profound. And one woman had gone into early menopause in the group and she was crying. She was so afraid of what was going to happen. And all her family members, her female family members had said to her, oh my God, this is going to happen and that is going to happen. And she was afraid. There was another woman in the circle who had had early menopause and she is a friend of mine. Her name is also Shakti. She's totally empowered, totally sexy, totally full of life force. So she was able to bust that myth and collapse that myth there and then. Is there anything else that needs to be said? I did write a few notes, but I'm really crap at looking at notes and speaking at the same time. I just want to encourage women to question the myths out there and to question what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and to question who you truly are and what you're really here for and why you would give a toss about what anyone says about your physical appearance. You're not here to please others. You're here to live your goddess given life and to shine as the beautiful one that you are. And you are beautiful just as you are, however you are. What people think about me is none of my business. Exactly. Yep. I'm going to read a quote from, this is I read so many books. This is Yoni Shakti by Uma Dinsmore Thule, and she quotes in here Caitlin Moran. You've probably heard of her. She's written this book called How to Be a Woman. There's a beautiful quote here. Yes, we are all dying. We are all crumbling into the void, one cell at a time. But only women have to pretend it isn't happening. 50-something men wander around with their guts flopped out over their waistbands and their faces looking like a busted tramp's mattress in an underpass. Men age visibly every day, but women are supposed to stop the decline around 37, 38 and live out the next 30 or 40 years in some magical bubble where their hair is still shiny, their faces unlined, their lips puffy and their tits up on the first third of their rib cage. Can you identify with that? I mean, I don't live in the mainstream really, so I can't relate to that, but I do see that. I do see, like when I've been on, I'm not on online dating sites now. When I was on online dating sites some years ago, I was always really shocked because I consider myself to be extremely beautiful, sexy, intelligent, incredible woman. And the only men who ever approached me on online dating sites were like 15 to 20 years older and really quite unattractive and boring. And I thought, hang on a second, like what the fuck is going on here? Because when I go out into the real world and people meet me and interact with me, typically I will attract men who are 10 to 20 years younger. So it was a really interesting thing. But I do see there is a double standard going on in the world. It's similarly, similarly she goes on to say, men are not queuing up to get their faces lifted and their wrinkles Botoxed. They are aging visibly, proudly, and with additional power and kudos accruing with every additional silver hair. They are not usually endeavouring to appear to be boys. Old men have roles to play and power to wield. Old women have long since had those powers stolen from them. The disempowerment and humiliation of older women is one of the most long-standing and unchallenged effects of patriarchy. As a result, aging women are often engaged in indecorous or do you say indecorous, struggle to deny their experience and act as if we were still young. Well, so that's Uma Dinsmore Thule speaking, and I agree with a lot of it. Some of it I don't agree with, because I totally think it's wonderful to be indecorous if that is who you really are. I don't give a fuck about living up to some standard of what I should be. And I do notice that there is a difference in how some people now respond to my beingness in the world. That some people, but mostly people in the mainstream, but also people in the conscious community, will make assumptions based on my hair color, for example, about who I am and what I am. And it's really funny to me. For example, went to the jazz cafe in Camden and came out, and there was this man who was probably in his 40s, selling music outside, and he was chatting me and a friend up and making comments to suggest that we would be lucky if we still got sex from somebody given our age. And I was just like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? And I thought, my goodness, is he really making that assumption based on my hair color? That I'm not sexually active, and in fact that I'm not a tantra teacher? It was hilarious. Okay, yeah, Caitlin Moran, she's a very strident feminist, and she says a lot of awesome stuff. So I noticed that assumptions are made about me more so by men than women, based on my hair color. I do notice when I go to the 5 rhythms now that less men dance with me than used to. And I was quite shocked and upset by this at first, because I'm a brilliant dancer. I teach dance. I'm an incredible mover, and I dance with a huge amount of energy and vitality and brilliance, actually. You know, when I go on the dance floor, it's like Shakti takes over and off I go. But I have noticed since my hair has been openly grey, a lot less men have come to dance with me, whereas they used to flock to dance with me. And I thought, oh, all these years when men were dancing with me, and I thought it was because they wanted to dance with me. It's actually because they maybe were attracted to me. And I was really quite disappointed by that realization. So I am noticing I'm getting a few less dancers on the dance floor, which is a shame, because I love dancing, and I love dancing with a man, just dancing, not being chatted up, not trying to get off with someone, just dancing. It's awesome. So yeah, people make assumptions, don't they? People make assumptions based on how you look, particularly if they're tied into the mainstream. But I'm here to bust the myths. I'm here to speak to women of all ages. I'm here to be an inspiration. I'm here to say it doesn't have to be the way the dominant cultural narrative tells you that it is supposed to be. Menopause doesn't have to be difficult and painful. It doesn't have to be a time of suffering. Getting older doesn't have to be shameful, embarrassing, humiliating, disheartening. It's a time of empowerment. The mainstream has some catching up to do, but there are plenty of sisters who are on this path, who are awakened and awakening, who are already living this and embracing this and demonstrating this. So, you know, we're here. And another thing I want to say is that I was speaking to some sisters this morning, and they had been invited to a women's circle, and they were the only 2 women in that circle who were in their wise years. And they felt a little bit left out, because women were talking about their bleeding time. And I just want to say that it's really important that as women we gather in circles of all ages, that we as sisters come together from menarche to menopause to cronehood to death, that we share our wisdom. Just because I'm perimenopausal doesn't mean I don't also have a maiden aspect. She's alive and well and playful and silly and out there, It doesn't also mean I don't have the sacred sexual priestess aspect, who's totally in her lusciousness and her sexual divinity. She's alive and well within me. So don't just look at my hair and make an assumption. So sacred women's circles are very important. It's important that we come together, all ages, all stages of the cycle of life, the spiral of life, because we didn't have that when we were younger. It's really important that we share our experiences and that we share our wisdom, and that us elder women can hold space for the young women and vice versa. You know, everything is contained within the other. It's not like you're one thing or the other. We all contain everything within ourselves. So we are an immaculate spiral of everything anyway. So that's why these women's circles are so important. So don't cut yourself off from that if you're in menopausal years and think you shouldn't be part of a women's circle anymore. It's just as relevant for you to be there, particularly for the maidens who are coming up to witness you and see you being authentic in your wise years, and vice versa. You see how it goes. My women's circles have that diversity, they have that inclusivity, and it's really important to me that that continues. We don't actually have very many role models of wise women, of enlightened elder women, and you know, I feel myself stepping into that now more, but there's many years ahead, many years ahead. So that's it. I think that's it. I've waffled a lot. I hope it's been interesting or inspiring in some way for you. It just felt like I had to just get all this off my chest today. Yeah, because Dumavati's been doing her work through me. If you have any questions or comments or experiences that you want to share, please put them below, because I love women to share. And sometimes I feel when I hold my circles, everyone sits back and they're a little bit shy to sort of say, oh, but this and oh, but that. But you know, it's when we share our experiences that we're like, oh, thank God she said that, and oh, I've been experiencing that too, and oh, I've been afraid of that too, and oh, is that what happens? You know, it's like so beautiful and so precious and so valuable to share. And that's it. I'm gonna stop talking. I didn't make this video with that intention, but I'm just thinking I am doing a workshop. It's called From Maiden to Crone, and it's at the Awaken the Goddess Festival on July the 28th. I think it's a Sunday, last weekend in July in London. And also going to be doing a year group for women starting in October, which is a whole 9 months Awakening Shakti program. And again, if that is something that interests you, please PM me or pop your name underneath, because I am really excited about sharing everything that I've learned and everything that I practice with a group of women, and taking you on a journey through every aspect of your feminine, like nothing will be untouched. So yeah, that's it. And thank you so much. Yeah, it is going to be an online course actually, Jessica. The Awakening Shakti course is going to be online. I haven't got anything immediately available that is only self-study online, if that's what you're meaning, but my Awakening Shakti year group, I keep calling it a year group, it's actually a 9-month year group from birth to gestation, will be entirely online. So yeah, if you want to know more about that, I can let you know. It will be starting in October, and then we'll be journeying from October through to June. Powerful stuff. Yeah, thanks for being with me, everyone. Oh, you said something else. Yeah, okay. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. And lots of juicy, 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 juicy vibes from me to you. Sat Nam. Bye.